The village of Oakhaven nestled in a valley. Green hills rolled like sleeping giants around it. A gentle river, the Silver Stream, wound its way through the heart of the village. Ancient oak trees lined the cobblestone streets. Flowers bloomed in vibrant profusion. It was here, amidst this idyllic beauty, that Elara first saw Cedric. He was sketching by the old stone bridge, his brow furrowed in concentration. The sunlight caught the auburn glint in his hair. Elara felt her heart give a little flutter. He looked up then. His eyes, the colour of warm honey, met hers. A slow smile spread across his face. Elara found herself smiling back, a blush rising on her cheeks. He gestured towards his sketchpad. "The light here," he said. "It's unlike anywhere else." Elara nodded, understanding completely. Their love blossomed quickly. It was like a wildflower, vibrant and untamed. Days turned into weeks, each one a new adventure. They explored hidden waterfalls, their laughter echoing through the trees. They picnicked in sun-dappled meadows, sharing sandwiches and secrets. Cedric painted Elara often. He said her eyes held the depth of the forest, her smile the brightness of the morning sun. Elara would watch him work, mesmerized by the way his hands moved. Their dreams intertwined, becoming a shared vision of the future. Cedric spoke of a small studio with large windows overlooking the valley. Elara would write her stories there, he said, while he painted. They would fill their home with books and art. Their evenings would be spent by a crackling fire, reading aloud to each other. Elara believed in these dreams with all her heart. She saw their future so clearly, a beautiful tapestry woven with threads of gold and crimson. Love, she thought, was the ultimate masterpiece. It was real. It was theirs. Then, subtly at first, a shadow began to creep into their sunlit world. Cedric started spending more time alone in his studio. He said he needed to concentrate, that a new project demanded all his focus. Elara understood. She knew the pull of creation, the need for solitude, yet a small seed of unease began to sprout within her. He seemed more distant, his laughter not quite reaching his eyes as it once did. His touch, though still tender, felt a little less present. She tried to dismiss her fears. She told herself it was just the ebb and flow of a creative life. So she gave him space. She filled her days with long walks, with reading, with tending to her small garden. But the silence in their shared moments grew louder. The easy conversations became a little more strained. Sometimes she would catch a fleeting expression on his face, a shadow she couldn't quite decipher. One evening, they were supposed to have dinner at her cottage. Elara had spent the afternoon cooking his favorite meal. The table was set, candles lit, the aroma of roasted chicken filling the air, but Cedric was late. Hours passed. When he finally arrived, well past midnight, he offered a hurried apology. The truth, when it came, was not a whisper. It was a deafening roar, a brutal storm that tore through Elara's world. It happened on a crisp autumn afternoon. She had decided to surprise Cedric at his studio, bringing him a warm flask of cider and some freshly baked apple muffins. She walked down the familiar path, her heart light with anticipation. The studio door was slightly ajar. Elara pushed it open gently, a playful greeting on her lips, but the words died in her throat. Cedric was there. He was not alone. A woman Elara had never seen before was with him. They were standing close, very close. Then Elara saw it. Cedric leaned in and kissed the woman. The flask of cider slipped from Elara's numb fingers, crashing to the wooden floor. Cedric and the woman sprang apart. His eyes, wide with shock, met Elara's. There was no mistaking the guilt that flooded his face. Elara simply turned and fled. The days that followed were a blur of pain. Elara retreated into her small cottage, the world outside ceasing to exist. The vibrant hues of Oakhaven now seemed muted. Sleep offered little respite, her dreams haunted by images of Cedric. She would wake with a start, her heart pounding. The silence of her cottage, once peaceful, now felt oppressive. Food lost its taste. Music lost its melody. The books she once loved lay unopened. She would sit by the window for hours, staring blankly at the garden. Weeks turned into months. The initial shockwave of pain began to subside. One grey afternoon, as rain lashed against her window pane, Elara found herself wandering aimlessly through her cottage. Her gaze fell upon a dusty wooden box tucked away in a corner. It contained her old set of paints and brushes, untouched for years. Hesitantly, she opened the box. The familiar scent of oil paints filled the air. With no clear intention, she pulled out a small canvas and set it on a makeshift easel. Her hands trembled slightly as she squeezed a tube of blue paint onto a palette. She picked up a brush. For a long moment, she simply stared at the blank canvas. Then, slowly, almost involuntarily, her hand began to move. She didn't try to paint anything specific. She just let the colours flow, guided by the raw emotions churning within her. The act of painting became a ritual. Every day she would retreat to her small corner, the world outside fading away. It was a difficult process. Sometimes the pain would overwhelm her and she would have to stop. But she always returned to the canvas. It was as if the paints were drawing the sorrow out of her. As Elara continued to paint, a transformation began to occur. The deep blues and stormy greys started to give way to other colours. A tentative splash of violet, the colour of healing, a streak of muted gold, like the first rays of dawn after a long night. Her pain was still present, but it was no longer the all-consuming force it once had been. Her art became a chronicle of her journey, from the depths of despair towards a fragile, emerging hope. Her paintings began to attract attention. Word spread through the small village of Oakhaven. The local gallery owner, Mrs. Albright, heard about Elara's paintings and asked to see them. Elara was hesitant at first. Her art felt too personal, too raw to share. But Mrs. Albright was gentle and encouraging. When she saw Elara's collection, she was deeply moved. She offered Elara a small exhibition at her gallery. The thought of sharing her art with the world was terrifying, yet also strangely exhilarating. Her art was a testament to survival, to the human capacity to find light even in the darkest of times. The exhibition was a quiet success. People were drawn to the emotional depth of her work. Through her art, Elara began to rediscover her own worth. She was not defined by Cedric's betrayal. She was an artist, a creator, a woman capable of transforming her deepest wounds into something meaningful. The healing process was not linear. There were still days when the shadows of the past would try to creep back, but these moments became less frequent, less overwhelming. Elara learned to acknowledge them, to sit with them for a while, and then to let them go. She understood now that healing wasn't about forgetting. It was about integrating the experience into her story. The sharp edges of her grief had softened. She was learning to breathe again, deeply and freely. She started to venture out more. She reconnected with friends in Oakhaven. She took long walks along the silver stream. The beauty of the world slowly began to reveal itself to her once more. She found joy in simple things. Her laughter, once silenced, began to return. Her art continued to evolve. She found a new sense of purpose in her work. Elara stood on the old stone bridge in Oakhaven, the same bridge where she had first met Cedric. The silver stream flowed steadily beneath, its waters reflecting the clear blue sky. It was spring again. The air was fresh with the scent of blossoms. A gentle breeze ruffled her hair. She closed her eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath. There was no lingering ache in her heart, only a quiet sense of peace. The memories of Cedric were still there, but they no longer held the power to wound her. They were simply part of her past. She had transformed. The shy, somewhat naive woman who had fallen so deeply in love was gone. In her place stood a stronger, wiser Elara. Her experiences had carved new depths into her soul. Her art had flourished, gaining recognition beyond Oakhaven. She had found her voice, her passion, her purpose. She knew who she was, what she valued. The future stretched before her, an open horizon full of possibilities. She didn't know what it held, but she faced it with courage and an open heart. She carried her past not as a burden, but as a collection of lessons learned. Elara smiled, a genuine, radiant smile that reached her eyes.